Among the people in the room for that 40-minute bilateral meeting between President Trump and Prime Minister Carney, Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman. Hi, Ambassador Hillman. Pleasure to welcome you back to the program. Thanks for making the time.
Hi, Vashti. Good to be with you.
The president, ahead of his meeting with the Prime Minister this morning, called a deal, a quote-unquote deal between Canada and the U.S. achievable. How would you characterize the meeting that followed between the two leaders and then the meeting that you took part in with the USTR?
Look, I think a deal is achievable between our two countries. We've got all of the components in our relationship that should allow for us to adapt to, let's face it, the changes in our trading profile with the Americans based on the president's agenda, his tariff agenda. We've got what it takes to get somewhere that is good for Canada, good for Canadian workers, and good for the United States. We're making progress. I think the momentum is growing. I think that's fair to say, and I think we got fairly clear instructions from the leaders to keep up the pace. But look, it's not done till it's done, and we're going to have to wait and see what we're able to get done in the coming days and weeks. We're going to have another meeting later this week, so I'm hopeful that we're going to start to see some real, a real frame of something coming together.
What is Canada's objective at the end of the day when it comes to these negotiations or these conversations?
I mean, Canada's objectives are pretty straightforward. We negotiated under the CUSMA 99% tariff-free trading relationship with the Americans. That's the deal that we struck. That's the deal that we think is fair. The arrangement that is going to come under reconsideration in 2026 is a process for 2026, according to the Americans. So right now what we have to do is find a way to get ourselves out from under the tariffs that the U.S. has put on to date, and frankly, from their part, to get out from the countermeasures that we have put on the United States. So that's our goal. Our goal is to get back to a predictable free trading environment as soon as possible in order to, move forward and find whatever the equilibrium is between our two countries after that.
Do you think that's possible, to be blunt, Ambassador? And I ask because the next thing that the president said after saying that a deal was achievable was that he is a tariff man. Is it possible for Canada to see a zero tariff environment and a return to true or as close to true as possible free trade?
We don't have a deal yet, so it's impossible at this point to say what that deal is going to look like, and therefore to say what is possible. What I can say is that is our objective. We've been clear with the Americans ever since then. Ever since we started, we want the tariffs off. We want stability going forward, and we're willing to work with the U.S. on the challenges that they see in the global trading environment, but also their objectives of making sure that they are bringing manufacturing back to the United States, especially from, I think, countries where they feel that aren't playing by the rules. And we are not one of those countries. We are a country that very much plays by the rules. So, look, we're going to find out what's possible as we progress these negotiations. But this is not the moment for us to say anything less than what we want is a zero tariff environment between us and the United States. That's what we negotiated. That's what we think is best for Canada. That's what we think is best for the U.S.
So let me reframe the question a little bit then, just to give Canadians a sense, I think, of what you have a unique perspective on. We hear the president say he is a tariff man. We hear him continue to talk about the utility of tariffs as an economic policy. You're on the inside of those conversations. How wedded is this administration, in your view, to the concept of tariffs as an economic policy?
The president is believes that tariffs are a very important tool for him for a variety of reasons, for raising revenues, for rebalancing trade with countries where he feels that the balance is off. We are very vigorously explaining why we do not think that that is the case with Canada. So I believe that he will continue to use tariffs as a tool throughout his entire administration. That is, a tool he wants to use, and he will continue to use. Our job is to say the economic objectives that you are trying to achieve through the use of tariffs, We are not going to pass any kind of judgment on whether that makes sense with respect to other countries, other trading partners. But what we're trying to say to you and what we are trying to demonstrate through facts is that you can achieve those goals for America, for Americans, for American industry, with Canada through other means, by ensuring, for example, that we create, in strategic sectors, a very strong common front against those that are undermining global supply chains, to ensure that we are contributing to complete energy, the president's term is energy dominance, that allows the United States and Canada to really be strong in the fields of AI, in areas that are heavily energy dependent. We can be their best partner in a lot of those ways, and therefore the tariff equation does not quite fit when it comes to us, without passing any kind of, judgment or any kind of perspective on whether or not that is the right tool in dealing with others, because that's not our area of responsibility.
So what would you say to Canadians who are watching this tonight, watching the events of the day unfold, in particular the exchanges between the two leaders, and who feel nervous about, maybe optimistic at the prospect of some stability, but nervous about the fact that a deal did exist and is in place between our two countries, and that the president on multiple occasions has contravened that deal over the last number of months, and would probably ask of you, why are we entering into a new arrangement with someone we couldn't trust in the last one?
Well, because we have to do what's best for Canadians. We have to do what's best for the Canadian industries that are being affected by the president's tariff policy. And if we do not enter into discussions with the United States, if we do not engage with them, how are we to find relief for those industries? We can't just stand here and not have these discussions with them. We need to be working with them to find a path to get ourselves into a position that is going to allow those industries to, to get back to the place that they need to be.
Do you think that path is possible? Do you think that the existence of stability between the two countries is possible? I know that you said earlier that you agree that it's achievable, that a pact is achievable, but do you ultimately think that the U.S. will stand by whatever we end up agreeing to with them?
Look, I can't. That you're asking me a speculative question about the future, and I can't say definitively what President Trump is going to do in the future. I cannot say that. What I can say is that we, as our responsibility here, and my responsibility, Minister LeBlanc's responsibility, Prime Minister's responsibility, the government's responsibility, our industries that are helping support us in this discussion that we're having with the United States, our responsibility is to deal with the situation in front of us. And the situation in front of us are tariffs that are punishing some of our industries and causing them great difficulty. And those tariffs have been put on by the U.S. administration. And so we need to talk to them about getting those off. We need to figure out how to make that happen. Can we do it? I think we can. I think we can get to a better place. Will it last, a very long time for the rest of this administration? I most certainly hope so. And I think that, that's obviously our objective overall. But again, President Trump is the leader that he is. He takes very, hard lines on things that matter to him, and we're going to have to just take it one step at a time.
I'll leave it there, Ambassador. Thank you so much as always. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Vashi.